she picked me up, went back to work at Brager, started selling cars again, and had an awesome opportunity. Even then, I was actually basically ran the athletic department for the city of Oak Creek. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
I think you mentioned that before to me, but that's good.
Yeah, so I starting to get back into sports, which is what I really wanted to do. So I was in a unique situation where I kind of struck up a deal with the dealership, because at that point I was one of the more top salesmen there, and they didn't want to lose me. But at the same time, like, this is what I wanted to pursue, and to have this opportunity to work in sports, but also like work. I mean, the city of Oak Creek at that time was growing, and it was
a huge opportunity.
It was a huge opportunity, and I was the guy. Like, I was running all from youth sports to adult leagues to, like, if anything sports was going on in Oak Creek, I was the one that was running it, hiring. Like, it was an awesome opportunity. So I went to the dealership, and they're like, well, we don't want to lose you, so why don't you just work from home, or like work when you're not working at Oak Creek? I was like, all right. So basically, I was able to sell cars by never going into the car dealership.
So go.
Still making that kind of money on top of now working for Oak Creek. It was basically a full-time position there. I was working, a lot of weeks, 40, 45 hours a week, even though I was only supposed to be working 30, 35. But
you loved it.
But I loved it. But the thing is like, here I am again, finding myself with no accountability, because now I'm running this, and I could, I didn't necessarily have to be involved in the day-to-day. I just had to hire people. So I had to hire coaches. I had to hire refs. I had to make sure fields are reserved and things like that for practices. But, like, I did all of that on the background. And I remember, it was about a month after I'd been clean for about a month. I hadn't touched alcohol or anything like that for about a month. And I remember we went out for someone's birthday to a bar, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "You're not drinking tonight." And I was like, "No." I was like, "I think I can." I was like, the hard liquor was my problem. I was like, I can have beer.
Sure.
That was never an issue for me. Like, I was like, so as long as I don't drink liquor, I'll be okay. Shit. Begrudgingly, was like, all right. So I remember that exact time was when I started drinking again, and I did okay for a month, 2 months, just drinking beer. But of course, inevitably, it's going to lead to something else. And so this is kind of the beginning of the hard crash. So for about a year. Let me backtrack a little bit. So after I did the beer for a while, I started drinking hard liquor again. But this time I was hiding it. I didn't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
So I would pour out Powerade bottles and mix it half and half with vodka and Powerade. And vodka doesn't smell as much, so it's a lot harder to detect, and it's clear, so it doesn't. So, I'm just doing all these things, and for about I'd say 8 months to a year, I got to a point with no one knowing that I was drinking over a liter of vodka a day. Like, I could not go an hour without drinking.
Wow.
Just because I would get home at 8 o'clock at night and just drink until I passed out. I mean, it was never like I went to bed. It was just whenever I passed out, I passed out. And I would drink up to that point, and then I would wake up, probably be around midnight. I would have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning just to fall back asleep.
Yeah.
Same thing at 4, same thing at 6, same thing at, like, every hour to 2 hours, like, because if I didn't, my body would literally start shaking and shutting down. So I was just, you'd say, chemically dependent on alcohol to be able to survive. And fast forward to the end, not the end, but really
where you hit your
rock bottom's a tough thing for me, because rock bottom to me is there's no bottom to rock bottom. Like the grave, right? Like
when there's no more point, no point of return, and no more redemption,
exactly. Like that's rock bottom. But like where it got
your turning point, maybe is better.
Yeah. So where it got hard, where I was like, all right, I need to do something. So I for about a month straight, I was throwing up blood every morning, just throwing up blood. So I was like, man, all right, I got to go get this checked out. So I went to a doctor. They sent me to some specialist, some throat specialist, went down there, scoped it. Basically, I had what was called esophagitis, or I can't pronounce it. But my esophagus was bleeding and basically tearing and very serious.
Sure.
He's like, how old are you? I'm 26 years old. He's like, dude, you've got, where you're at with your liver and with he's like, you've got signs of someone who's been drinking for 60 years. He's like, if you don't stop, he's like, you don't have another year left. He's like, you're going to die. Wow. Basically is what he told me. Crazy thing. I was not suicidal. I never once was suicidal. But that's the crazy thing about addiction is like, so I heard that and you'd think, all right, well that should be a turning point, right?
Right.
Like that should be like, all right. That next day I was drinking.
Wow.
It was just like, I'm not dead yet, so let's keep going. I mean,
right.
And it really wasn't, and it was about, it all happened so fast from that to Christina, it was my girlfriend's name at the time, came home and I was just plastered. And she was basically just like, look, she's like, my father was an alcoholic. She's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, we're breaking up. We have to, like, you got to go.
Yeah. So
I was like, all right, whatever. I had a good friend that was moving to Florida at the time. So I was like, packing my stuff. I'm just moved to Florida with him.
There you go.
And man, it had to have been the Lord. I don't know what made me say what I said, but me and her met one final time because we had been living together for almost 2 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we had bills and just a lot of things. So we just wanted closure and to kind of figure out what moving forward looked like, especially if I was going to be moving to Florida. And so I sat down at the fitting. It was at a bar. Sat down at the bar and I opened my mouth and the first words that came out, I don't know how, it was just like, I need help. Like, this is really what's been going on. And I just shared with her how much I had been drinking. She had no clue.
Wow. Did she know about the doctor visit and all that?
She didn't. She knew I went to the doctor, but she didn't know the results or the extent of it. No. So I just laid out, look, I've been drinking this amount for this much time. This is what's going on. I was like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but like, I need help. And I'm the Lord's provision in my life was incredible. Like just, but I'm just very thankful because instead of her getting mad, first thing she did was she's like, I'm driving you to detox right now. And then she got on the phone with my parents and was like, hey, here's what we need to do. And she was actually pretty instrumental in getting me to Redemption House, which is where I ended up going for recovery. Yeah, that's a long story, dude.
It is. That's good.
I'm going through it. I'm just like, man, I don't know how I can wrap this up in 20 minutes. I'll try though.
That's okay. We got 30. It's okay.
So it was. So I guess that you could say was my rock bottom or my turning point, or like me saying I need help, and still it had nothing to do with the Lord. It had everything to do with like. I look back now, I was like, man, I probably still wanted to keep that relationship. Like things were good. Like I still wanted work, but I was like, I knew I had to do something drastic in order to keep those things. So I went to detox for 6 days. Her and my parents picked me up from there. While I was in detox, my parents called me and they were like, hey, we've got 2 options for you. We've got this place called Bethany Farms, which is a year-long program. it's a Christian program, but it was more kind of work related, like than recover. Well, it's a recovery home, but you do a lot of work.
Yeah.
So she's like, year-long program, or she's like, we found this place in Minnesota that's called Redemption House. And she's like, it's a 3-month program. And I'm like, all right, so done. 3 months, boom.
No other information involved.
No other information needed. Let's do it. And just a quick little side note on it, just on the power of prayer. 6 months prior to that, I mean, my parents throughout this whole time knew I was drinking. Didn't necessarily know to the extent, but they were like trying to find ways to fix me, trying to get people to come meet me, trying to send people into my lives. And 6 months prior to that happening, they finally just said, all right, we're done. Not done with him, but the only thing we can do is really submit this to the Lord. We're going to trust him with it. And the only thing we can do is love him and pray for him.
That's good.
And just the power of prayer and just kind of that power of just trusting the Lord with it. And just his sovereignty was just a really, really cool and a cool testimony to them too, just being diligent with that.
Absolutely.
Sorry, that was for free.
That's good. That's true.
But yeah, so went to Redemption House. I wanted to be there, didn't want to be there.
Right.
Redemption House is it's a completely gospel-centered recovery. So they go, it's not a 12-step. It's not anything like that. And it's for guys that struggle with alcohol, guys that struggle with drugs, men that struggle. I mean, we had men that struggle with alcohol, struggle with drugs. We had men there that struggled with pornography that they were there for. We had men that struggled with their sexual identity. I mean, it was just all encompassing. It wasn't just alcohol,
sure.
Which I thought was a little strange, but I was like, hey, you know what? I'll give it a shot. But Redemption House, you read the website, and it's just funny because I read it on the way up there, and I was like, their kind of mission statement is worshiping your way out of addiction. And I'm like, man, are they just going to be like singing songs and like doing all these things the whole time?
Yeah. Did I make this right choice here?
I was like, what am I doing? Like, who am I going to a cult? Like, what is this? But it's a lot deeper than that. And basically, I mean, we sang a little bit, but we take addiction as I worked for them, but Redemption House takes addiction as the approach of a worship disorder. It's not behavior modification. It's rooted a lot deeper than that, and it's rooted in the heart and what your heart desires, and our heart's sinful, right?
Absolutely.
And it really takes a transformation of the heart, and recovery is a byproduct of that. And obviously there's work that goes into it, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, all right. So I get to Redemption House, doing the program. I've always been kind of a follow the rules kind of,
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
I'm going to do it right. So, doing the work, reading the books, reading the Bible every day, but it still just wasn't, I was doing it just so I could get out of there in 3 months and be like, hey, I did 3 months. I'm sober 3 months. Christina, take me back.
Yeah.
Let's things like that. But the Lord had other plans for that. So about a month in, it's weird to say, but a month in was really my lowest point. So like actually being in recovery, being sober for a month, actually was probably my lowest point or my rock bottom, as they say. Got a call. Was basically from my girlfriend at the time. She's like, hey, just want to let you know I'm super proud of you, but I'm still kicking you out of the apartment.
Yeah.
Can't go back to work. So basically, at that point, I was homeless, broke, didn't have a job, and I didn't have anywhere to go. And I just remember that evening, I was like, all right, God, like, what now? Like, what next? And
all the reasons you were really in there for are now gone.
Are gone, exactly. And I'm just like, all right. And it was then that I was like, all right, I'm giving this to you. Not really a show me what you can do attitude, but it was like, it was like, all right, like I'm done. I'm done running. I'm done kicking kicking against the goads, as Paul says.
Yeah.
And